Urbanyeg is a community of photographers, but it's not really about the photography.
Before urbanyeg, I was working in marketing. During that time, I was trying to explore photography a little bit, and March of 2012 is when this idea popped into my head. And so between 2012 and 2015, I was looking to get into photography more. I was actually starting my own photography business. I was trying to get inspiration and get to know more people on Instagram. And I was scrolling through Instagram one day. I think it was probably at work. As I'm scrolling through under the hashtag YG, I'm noticing that there's a bunch of amazing photographs, and 10 out of 10 times, like, I didn't know anybody. Like, I didn't know who they were. And so it's a big city, but it's not like that big. And I'm like, why don't I know these people? Why don't I be the guy then to put a platform out there where we can get to know each other? That's really the gist of how urbanyeg, like the idea of it started, the desire to meet other photographers and just and get that connection going. After I started the urbanyeg account, my first goal was really just to get the name out there, build a community, get people kind of used to the idea that urbanyeg was there, and explaining what urbanyeg was about. But I knew that the way to really build solid connections with any type of community is you have to meet in person. Like, it wasn't just going to be done on the digital level. So that next step, and I think it was about a month into it, was I wanted to create a photography meetup, which I called an Insta-meet, and but really it could have been called a photo walk or whatever you wanted. But I was like, what? I think like an Insta-meet going on Instagram was like a good idea. So, and I just said, let's meet at Churchill Square in April. I think it was like between 26 to 29 people showed up. I guess I was surprised. That really showed me that, wow, like, this is something that people want. So in my mind, the next steps after creating the account was really solidifying that connection. On Instagram, I don't think we had a ton of followers at that time. So I was still kind of just putting feelers out there, and something that was going to be worthwhile for me to continue putting my time into. Word travels. People have a good time at an event, they spread the word. And so at Insta-meet 2, I think there was probably, maybe 40, 45, 50 people or something like that. It was nice to see a larger crowd. And what was also nice was seeing familiar faces. So people who showed up to Insta-meet 1, meaning that, I'm doing something right. Made some new friends, and there's people who I'm still friends with today. So the Insta-meets have grown over the years. It's been almost 7 years now. And my thought for urbanyeg just in general was that we're always going to evolve what we do something different for each one, kind of build on it. We always like selecting different places. So, the first place was Churchill Square. Second place was near White Ave. Third place was we started off at Grandin, but then went to the legislature building area. And
honestly, the best part of Insta-meets for me is just being able to see people. There's so many people I've met over the years that are my friends now, and it's just like a fun reunion.
New friends, raise your hand if it's your 20th Insta-meet.
Veteran right here.
No, God, no.
She's been here since day one.
No. Yeah. Not quite. We got an OG right there.
That's an OG.
It's like 15 in.
I don't know, there's something about the energy of bringing a whole bunch of people together and then everybody playing with the camera. I don't know why, but it's there's something to it, and I very much enjoy that.
I think it's hugely important feel connected to other people, and especially when it comes to the creative world. There's a couple things that I'll say about that. Every post I see out there, in the creative world, it talks about this idea of feeling competitive. It's for whatever reason in the creative industry, there's this sense of competitiveness. And what happens out of competitiveness is, because it's so competitive, I shouldn't share information with you. If I'm a graphic designer, I shouldn't share how I do my design. If I'm a photographer, I shouldn't share my process with you, because there's this thought that hey, if I teaching you my secrets, aren't I just making you my competitor? And to me, that I don't like that mentality, because I don't think that it needs to exist. And actually, urbanyeg is proof that you can share as much information as you want, and you don't need to be competitive. As a matter of fact, if your mindset is right, then it builds community in a better way. Like, everybody is better by sharing that information and like feeling connected.
As a featuring platform on Instagram too, it's not so much of being in a competition with the people that are being featured on the page. It's more of a belonging. My work or my creative level is at the same caliber as these people that I look up to, and it's not seen in my eyes as a competition, like I need to beat them, that I need to be better than them. It's just like, hey, my work belongs in this realm with these creators. That aspect of urbanyeg definitely helped me want to get out more and be outside in nature and take my camera along with me for the adventures to see what I could come up with. And it's a moment of like feeling pride and joy within yourself to be like, yeah, I did that.
When I came to the very first one of these, I knew nothing about photography. I was still learning my camera. I was still really trying to figure out how to use it in the best way. And through my peers, many of which are still at this event and have been through the same 20 ones that I have, are still here today. And I've learned a lot from them. And in kind of experimenting and playing with photography in a safe space, like, it helped me so much. And I think there's just so much value to these events, whether you're a professional, whether you're just starting out, whether you're a model, whether you have your phone. I think there's so many different ways in which this is a great, valid event for everybody.
For real, I didn't know that there was that much photographers in the city, to be honest with you. To share experience and to actually learn from one another, yeah, I think it's important. Is that I feel that if I go outside and take pictures, I'm in my own zone and I feel very comfortable and at peace. Have the stress of life away from the mind.
Yeah, it's my first time here. It's really interesting to meet new people around, get to know them and their experiences so far.
Gives me a chance to do some photography in the city with other people, work on like the model shots and new ideas, new options. Great for mentoring, and it's nice to see a community that has no problem teaching other people how to do something that usually people keep as a guarded secret. Great unique experience, and should happen a lot more often.
urbanyeg specifically is built a bunch of people that are passionate about photography and have created a place for them to showcase, help hone their craft. They invest in the development of these people that are wanting to get into this space. Like, that's community. It's that engagement, it's that nurturing, it's that connectivity. That to me is what building a community is.
When I started urbanyeg, I had this idea that it was going to be this like a photography community, a creative community, but I always knew, like, I would say, like, from the get-go, that it was going to be something so much more. I would say it was in October of the first year that something like major happened, for the community, that it had to evolve. And what that was we had a community member, Evan Tran. He died by suicide in, I believe it was November of that year. And as soon as that happened, I knew that, I had to do more for mental health. Like, I needed to increase my knowledge of mental health, my awareness of mental health. Like, I was right beside Evan. Like, we had a good time at a couple of Instameets, and I didn't know that he was suffering from mental illness. I didn't know that, and I wish I did. And but when he was with me, he was like this really happy guy, and obviously when he was at that happy, that was a good time in his life. So obviously I'm glad that he came and shared that happiness with us at the Instameet.
Evan started getting into photography later, so closer to, I think once he got into university, boosts photography
like
at weddings and stuff, and I think that intrigued him to pick it up. And then he was doing kind of those meeting other photographer, U of A event photography. If there was an event, he was there taking all those photos and things
and
like
that's
that.
how you get to know people and create his connections, things like that. Yeah, he looked really professional. Like one camera in one hand doing this.
I started out as a hobby, I think, and then he got very interested. I think he started to want to be more serious about it for sure. He invested in the equipment, the lens, and things like that. And I think in his sense, he liked the idea of being able to capture a memory. Part of his mental health for Evan was very important to him. Is about time. And his thing was like, how do I remember these things, capture these moments, and use those to replicate future experiences. So I think photography as an outlet helped to kind of express, explore, and also because it was so fixated about time, I think it was a way for him to relax, to know that it's a way to capture a moment, but you also need to be able to experience it as well and not kind of drive himself crazy in that sense. It's like, okay, I can capture this feeling.
But also I think capturing it led to truth to it. I think that's always the thing with mental health, is that you think that your brain is lying to you, but if you take a photo of something that that happened, that's the truth, that was, that's something concrete. So, and
then allowed him to be artistic with it too. Evan kept everything kind of to himself, because again, part
this
of
is 2015. You have to remember, it's not the way we talk about mental health now, where it's very transparent. It was very much I think he was definitely struggled with the duality. He'd be a certain way with his friends and a certain way privately with his family, and I think it was really hard for him to sort of.
But also, he wasn't in the mindset to openly share, because again, he felt sometimes that if it was special to him, if he overshared, it would be bad luck. So a lot of times what we're finding and talking about today is finding out post, how much he was involved, because I was looking through his files on his computer. He would share oh, look, I took a photo of your kids and things like that, but it would only be a glimpse of it. A lot of things where you just deduce that it's important to him because he carries a camera bag everywhere he went. But were we aware of his troubles? Yeah, we have been as a family since he was 11 or so. Not having, as Angela says, as a society really speak much about it. It was a lot of feeling through the dark. I'm okay, well, let's go see a doctor. Let's go. But it still felt so shameful to him that he's well, what's wrong with my brain? Why are we going to check out my brain? But we were, as a family, open to he went to see group therapy with a child psychologist. All we ever want as a family was for him to be able to have a better day today and not suffer.
Yeah, I think he kept saying things he didn't want to be a burden on anyone.
Yeah.
I think for him it was that burden of himself on himself. It was just very internalized. So I don't think it was he definitely had family support, and obviously we come from a Asian family, and culturally talking about mental health has its own challenges, but I would say our family was pretty open and safe about it, and definitely more so now after the fact. I definitely think Evan's definitely changed the culture of how our family talks about mental health and how we deal with it, and just being more open with communication. Definitely gain a better empathy and understanding and openness. But I also think society in general, talking about mental health, is so much easier now and so much more accepted now. And I think, you always think about coulda, shoulda, woulda, but, if Evan were alive today, I just think he would have an easier time. I would like to think he would have easier time integrating in society and accepting that the shame a bit better, knowing that other people have it too.
With Evan, moving forward, what do you hope that his legacy continues to be?
I think continuing the conversation, having a more holistic approach to things, and that it's not a a death sentence. You have this, that's fine.
You can deal with
You
it.
can manage it.
Yeah.
You can, there are going to be bad days, there's going to be good days, but it's always manageable.
And there are people that will help you. Like, you have a support system.
There's still a long ways to go, though.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the conversation's open, but to get people comfortable, as you say, I have a cold, and we're not there yet.
Yeah.
There are more resources, people are open, but we're not at a point where people can say, I want to see a psychologist without thinking, do we even have money to go?
Mm-hmm.
They're not cheap. And then, you know, there's still some stigma over like medication and is it good? Is it bad? What type of therapy is good? You know, because the brain is a very mysterious organ.
How do you think that impacted him as well, being a man dealing with mental health?
I think it's harder.
Yeah.
I think still now, I mean, my son's 10. I've had to catch my husband who says things that he's grown up with. It's like, you're not supposed to cry. Suck it up. And I looked at him and said, no, he's sad. Let him cry. He's allowed to. You know, a lot of men don't have their close friends to be able to talk to and thinking, oh, you're weak for saying that. You know, I'm stressed from work. I need to take a leave. And it's like, no, you got to provide for your family. Or
the kind of responsibility of providing or needing to
and
sort
then
accomplish.
You get things where they hide and then they turn to bad habits like alcohol or drugs to kind of get through the stress. And really, if we're gonna spend all that money on that, why don't you spend it so people can go, okay, go see your psychologist, talk it out.
Yeah. What are some other ways do you think that we can tackle the stigma, especially with men's mental health?
Well, a lot of it's gonna have to be public education. Public education, teaching it young from school. I mean, I don't think we really have a good solid curriculum about mental health for just children, knowing, you know, like they talk a little bit about puberty and that's about it. It's like done. And how to bridge that gap once like they're out in the community, I think that's hard.
Yeah, or methods like how to cope when you do, you know, when you're sick, you know, there's always, you know, the 1, 2, 3 of what you do. But again, using that toolbox in public education, but giving it a mental health lens.
And so when I learned of Evan's passing, that's the exact moment that I knew that urbanyeg needed to make mental health another area that we focus on.
I had met Evan at one of the Insta meets. I don't remember which one it was. I ran into Evan, on the street, and I had only been to like one Insta meet. And while I was talking to him, I was thinking like, oh, hey, like, because I don't know anybody at this time. Like I still hadn't met very many people through urbanyeg at all. And I was thinking like maybe I should ask him if he wants to go with me to the, to this event, to like this beer fest thing. And I didn't, because I was nervous and I didn't know him really much that well. And so I didn't ask him. And I've like always thought about like, what if I did ask him? Would that have changed anything? I don't know. And I'll never know. But it's like, if you feel like there's something within you that you want to do, or you have you feel that there's something you want to do, you should do that. You should take the risk. And because like I had an opportunity to ask him to come with me to this thing and potentially build a relationship with him, and I didn't do that. And that's gonna stick with me for forever. That's gonna stick with me for a long time. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why it's like, take a risk, take a chance, do the thing that you want to do. And if it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out. But at least you know that you tried, right?
Mental health is something that affects all of us, and you know, including myself. And you know, if you have the proper supports and you know, you feel like you're not alone in going through something, you know, you're gonna go through it better. And especially with how many creatives I talk to out there and see out there that struggle with the kind of that mental health aspect, it just, to me, it made sense. So that was really the kind of the turning point where we made mental health a big part of urbanyeg.
Urbanyeg is a community of photographers, but it's not really about the photography. Like it is, but it's about like what's behind the photography. Because for me, like photography has also been a big part of like my personal development, my personal growth, and my work on myself.
Jeff was our number one, probably the oldest, like other than me, like the longest serving member, and he's our community engagement manager. He's the perfect person for that role because I would say he's the person who has gotten to experience what urbanyeg is all about, and now he's able to like, you know, take that experience and give it back.
When I discovered urbanyeg, it was really interesting because where I had moved was actually relatively close to White Avenue, and so this one day I decided just to go for a walk by myself down White Avenue, check out a few shops, a different way instead of going right down White Avenue for whatever reason. I saw Chan there with a bunch of people, and he was wearing the shirt that said urbanyeg on it. And I know Chan from work. Like I had known him from like my day job, but we didn't like meet outside of work or anything like this. And so when I saw him there, I was just like, "Hey, Chan," like, I mean, and when he saw me, he looked at me as if like I had like caught him with something, and he was telling me about urbanyeg and about what he was doing in terms of like working in photography and developing his own photography, and then also starting the community, build and develop this environment primarily through Instagram of being able to have people come together and be able to learn photography and spend time together and build friendships and build community. And it was interesting because like that was very much like I wasn't really looking for it. I wasn't in a place where I was like actively seeking it out, but it was what I needed at the time, I feel like. And I decided that I was gonna buy a camera, use that to become a part of the community, right? I didn't necessarily need a camera, I had a phone. So yeah, it was really interesting to start, you know, not only just putting faces to names from like Instagram, but to also like build relationships with those people, to also like not only hang out with them at Instameets, but also to like decide to go and hang out together outside of that. So in 2015, before urbanyeg, I was in a relationship that had ended before urbanyeg. Was living in a basement apartment at the time, and it was not too long before that I had officially left the military. Basically every day just going to and from work, and I was starting to get pretty depressed. I didn't really have very much of a social system at all, like a social group support system, if you will. I didn't really feel like I had very much opportunity to get out and meet people or talk to people or just get out of my place to work on the team to help support it and help it grow, right? I really had nothing else going on, and I was very much into what Chan was doing with urbanyeg because it was exactly like what he was trying to do and what he was curating for other people was basically like I was the person that he was curating that for. It was what I needed at the time, and I was very much appreciative and passionate about that. And I wanted to be able to like help that continue for other people because I knew how much it helped me in the place that I was in. The community within urbanyeg is not digital. Like a lot of it does exist digitally on Instagram and whatnot, but the biggest part of the community, like for me, is like actually being able to meet people and talk to people. And I like to teach. So I think the biggest thing for me probably is being able to teach, like address groups of people, or to organize Instameets, put together like a lecture, if you will, about like photography, about a certain aspect of photography. Being able to do that within the space of the community has helped me a great deal. And right, because without that opportunity and without that space, I don't think I would have really had an avenue, an outlet to discover those things about myself. It can be kind of like nerve-wracking to go into a space where you see a bunch of guys and girls who have like kit that they've spent a bunch of money on, who are producing really excellent work. And you go into that space and you're like, well, I can't talk to them. Like, what am I gonna say to them? They're light years beyond where I'm at. For whatever reason, like in the beginning, I was like very nervous and not feeling super confident about my skill and ability. Almost like I couldn't say I am a photographer until I reached some weird point of like ability, or until my photos look like a certain thing, which is like some ideal in my head that doesn't exist anywhere, that nobody else is holding me to this standard. But within the community, it was like people already saw me as a photographer. People already knew me as that. And people already appreciated my work, even if I didn't think it was like great. But through people validating where I was at and not holding me to the standard I was holding myself to internally, it helped me relax and calm down a little bit and be able to accept myself because they already accept me for where I'm at. And being able to be in an environment where the people who have been around for much longer can then teach you things, can relate to where you are now just starting out, and being able to be like, hey, I remember when I was where you are, I can relate to the feelings that you had, and I can tell you that those are temporary. You're gonna move out of that space and you're gonna get into a different space. And you're gonna have seasons with this. And like one season's gonna feel like this and one season's gonna feel like that is totally fine. And I can teach you some things that like maybe I did to help myself through that. Then you can just talk to people and be able to relate to people and not feel alone in that. And then when you move in a certain place, there's gonna always be people coming in behind you, and then you can share that with them, passing that down. Even that's like a small thing, but you know, it doesn't have to be necessarily somebody who's like, oh, I'm learning how to do pictures to make money, and even just being able to like take better photos that you appreciate for yourself or for like memories for your family and things like this. I think that's more than worth my time to be able to teach somebody how to do a small thing like that.
It builds a community within a bigger community where you feel welcomed, you feel connected to people that have same interests and passions as you.
Commonality between Shady Ape and what urbanyeg was doing, that Shady Ape was really good at breaking down what like meditation is and it isn't, and they were just trying to make it as comfortable as possible to like the average person. The way that I thought about meditation back then was like, and what I saw was like, I pictured people walking into a tent with smoke, and it was all like mystical and whatnot, and like I thought that's the way it would like had to be, or like that was the way it's portrayed. But Shane was like throwing out F-bombs, like, and you know, and I was like, hey, these are my people, like this is great.
Power of community that urbanyeg has created was so apparent. I mean, we had like sold out sits for so long because of what has been built within urbanyeg, and we live in a big city. And I've had moments where I felt so alone, but surrounded by so many people. And that can really easily happen in a city where you have a lot of urban isolation. And so I think having people who care about you, and it can be as simple as like, I walk into my coffee shop now and they go, hey Shay, and I'm like, someone sees me, right? And I think the power of community is so obvious within urbanyeg, and it's around, like, you guys came together around photography, but it became so much more than that, right? Because when you're able to connect with people on like a human level and see someone and be seen by someone, it's powerful. And we know the research shows that it's powerful. We know that the #1 predictor of happiness is social connection. The #1 in like all of the positive psychology research. And it shows up over and over again. And I think that coming together around a common interest and then just seeing that blow up into the community is beautiful. I'm so grateful, and I think I can speak for April too, that we got to be sort of a part of that. Their trust was put in us because urbanyeg sort of vouched for us, which was, I feel so good even just talking about it.
Yeah. So I would define us as really just a community organization that brings people together for mindfulness and meditation. I think a big piece of what we do really is the community aspect. So we are meditation teachers. We both practice meditation and have been for a long time. And we've seen the benefits of what that's done in our own lives, and want to share that with people. And have anyone from beginners to people who sort of have a seasoned practice but want to practice in community. Being able to show up authentically as you are in a safe space to share pieces of yourself that I think we often keep hidden because we're scared if those get seen. And once you share that, there's a lot of power in other people seeing that too, and then being like, oh, my crazy is a little bit normal. So we are a mindfulness and meditation company that also focuses so much on community and bringing people together. So an analogy I use quite often is, and mindfulness and meditation get used interchangeably quite often, but they're not the same thing. Mindfulness really is an umbrella for a way of being and a way of moving through life. So being more mindful of how we feel in our body, what our thoughts are, sort of more present and grounded in this moment. And meditation really is a specific formal practice that helps us to develop the faculty of mindfulness so that we can move through our life in a more mindful way.
How powerful it was for us in our mental health and our overall well-being. And so we thought other people might want to share in that too. So, and it kind of morphed into the community group aspect that we have now.
A practice where we're sort of turning inward, we're grounding ourselves, and we're getting to know ourselves a little bit better. And there's some really cool research around meditation and the physiological changes that happen in our body when we practice consistently over time. How it actually changes gray matter in our brain. It helps with emotional regulation. It helps physiologically with like decreasing blood pressure, heart rate, regulating our nervous system, improve memory, improve focus. So it really is the practice of setting aside time to be intentionally mindful.
We always sit in a circle, and part of that is just that although we are guiding the meditation and we're here as teachers, we truly are just guides to your practice. So by sitting in a circle, everyone is as equal as we are. We do introductions, so everybody introduces themselves, which allows you to both, physically arrive here, but also mentally and emotionally enter into the space, and we recognize everyone, again, with the same level of importance. And we usually have like an introductory question, and it's usually something around like, what brought you here today, or what are you looking for in your practice today? Allows us to get a sense of, or a feel of the room, and to pick up on patterns already, because a lot of what we do as leaders is be aware of the patterns of the people who come, so that we can be in service to them by choosing a practice or shifting what we're going to teach about to address their needs while everybody in the circle is meditating. We try and make it as safe a space as possible, so we make sure that we guide people in and out of the practice, both using trauma-informed practices to make sure that everybody feels as safe as possible.
Figure out what works for them and what resonates with them, and also often provide resources for people if they want a place that they can go to for other guided meditations. If you have a community to go to while you're going down this path, it can make you see how normal your experience is, and that can be really comforting.
The research, both in psychology and social work, community is kind of required for healing. Of having one other person in support that's like your total cheerleader can make all the difference when you're trying to heal from or move through something that's challenging. So when we look at meditation, it's a bit of a juxtaposition in that meditation is a solo effort. I can't be in your experience at the same time that I'm in mine, and nor can I ever truly understand what it's like to be inside of you, thoughts, your feelings. But if you have a way of describing that to me, and then I have a way of describing that back to you, then we make a connection. And that actually lights up areas in the brain where it's just like, oh, I'm not alone in this. And even if we're both struggling, we get to struggle together. And so then as we're struggling together, things get stronger. So that's been replicated in the research over and over and over again in different ways. So for example, groups like Alcoholics Anonymous. Some of the research shows that some of the actual practices are only as strong as the community in which they're practiced.
So I am the president of Oodle Noodle Franchise Corp, which is the franchisor of all of the little Oodle Noodle locations that we have around the city. I was just a consumer of the product. Instagram is a powerful tool. I started following ever since because it's cool shots of Edmonton and that's stuff that I love. So just kind of following from afar, community builders and awesome agencies and programs that we can work together with and have some fun. Edmonton's an interesting place. It's my hometown. I love it, and I'm here to defend it. It's not defending it in a bad sense. It's just we need to start bragging about it more. We're not good about bragging and sticking ourselves out there and saying, hey, look at us over here. That helps Edmonton. everyone's staying here and doing cool stuff, that helps Edmonton. So we just want to play a small role in supporting that. You can do all the cool stuff. And so, you know, doing contests where you're like, okay, we'll support this event with food and maybe sure we invest a little bit of dollars because it's some kind of prize. You know, in true collaboration, urbanyeg comes up with a concept and a contest where it's go around the city and photograph boxes, right? In a cool urbanyeg way. We always say, Oodle Noodle loves Edmonton. It's easy to say that, and a lot of people say they love this and they love their community. We really mean it, and we like to make sure our actions and our words align. So we decided to start donating a portion of our sales to local charities. We started donating 400 meals worth of food a week to a local food agency. So that was our chance to really show, you know, in a real big time of need, what Oodle Noodle is really about and something that we can stand behind. We say Oodle Noodle loves Edmonton. And that means, it expands more than just charity. Community investment means more than charity. It also means, and it's cliche to say, but supporting the arts. There's a lot of amazing creativity happening in Edmonton. It's about the long game for everyone, whether it's your business, whether it be the storytelling of Edmonton, or just making sure that groups like urbanyeg have a chance to keep going and growing. Because it's amazing all the cool content that comes from that, from them specifically, that once again helps put Edmonton on the map.
There's so many great photographers out there in the city, and I'm talking about like the young ones, like anywhere from like 15 to like 25. They're so good at what they do. They're out there like every day capturing different angles of the city. I love to follow these folks. So, you know, getting inspiration from them.
Like, yes, photography is what everyone shows up for. Everyone shows up because, oh, it might be a cool day to take photos. Like, you might have exclusive access to a cool venue. Everyone shows up for the photos. But I think that everyone's day is for the community at the end of the day. I can go to these events and make friends, and I know that everyone there is genuine. Yeah, this is a documentary that I want to resonate with people who are in the community and people who have never heard of urbanyeg and maybe aren't even from Edmonton or Alberta. I want people to see that, hey, there's this community in Edmonton that's making this difference in a bunch of people's lives, and that could happen in any city. And I also want to make it for the community as well, to say how grateful I am for that community. And it's almost like this is another way for me to give back and say thank you for everything that everyone has done. It's like it deserves a spotlight.